noise.
Welcome back to the next part of this Truth and Rhythm episode. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. Also become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon, or consider donating at funknstuff.net. Thank you so much for your interest and support. Enjoy. Hey, before we get started with today's show, I just want to draw your attention to new merchandise. Funk and Stuff and Truth and Rhythm designs are in, and they look pretty darn cool. So show your support, help support the program, and show off some stylish merchandise and apparel. Only at the Funk and Stuff store. So how did you come to, finally make that connection with George and P-Funk where you became part of it?
Okay, well, what happened with that was I had been at United Sound recording studio most of the whole day working on a dramatic album. And so then I gathered up all my instruments to go home for the course of the day. And that was about 8 o'clock that night. And then I get a call when I get to the house, because back then there was no cell phones, no none of that. So you would have to get the call at home or whatever. And Ron Banks of the Dramatics called me. And this was like in 1977, at the end of the year. He called me and told me, he said, man, Butch, I'm here still at United, and Bootsy said he needs some percussion on a couple of songs. So I told Ron, I said, Ron, I'm not coming back to the studio, because all of my gear, when I got it home and unloading the car and going about 20 trips down to the basement, to take all the gear out and everything. And I had been at United since maybe about noon that day and doing maybe, who knows, 3-4 recordings already. And so he said, Butch, come on, man, you gotta come back. He said, I told Butchie, I told Bootsy, we got the best percussionists in the city. You gotta come, And I said, I know who Bootsy is. I said, man, Ron, I am tired. Then, so he talked me into it. Ronnie did. And I told him, I said, okay, I'm coming back to the studio. So I came back to the studio. And then I met Bootsy. And he had a couple of songs he wanted me to do. And so I set up gear and did those songs. And later on that night, I think we were done about midnight, he was asking me, he said, you want to be part of Rubber Band? So
Like that?
I said, well, I thought about it, because at that point, it was time for me to become an artist, far as doing all the studio work and everything. And then Bootsy and Parliament and all of them, I was definitely into what they were doing. So Ron had left United, and the next day I told him, I said, Bootsy had asked me to come and go out with Rubber Band. He said, see, I get you a session, now you're gonna leave us. But I said, no, I'll be able to do you both. I'll be able to do both. So that's how I got my introduction into Parliament Funkadelic family
Do
was,
you remember what tracks those were that you got
oh
called in for?
man, you know, it was, wow. Because I done did so much stuff, man. I got to look back.
Well, it's probably his second or even third album.
Well, I didn't do the Stretching Out or the All the Name
So it was Player of the Year.
or Player of the Year. We started working on stuff that it was gonna come out after that. Maybe This Boot is Made for Funkin' and things of that nature, you know.
Okay.
So then I wind up just becoming part of the Parliament Funkadelic family and doing more touring with them. And when I was home off tour, I would be in the studio still doing session work with everybody in Detroit, you know.
Had you met Bootsy before that?
No, I hadn't. And I forgot to talk about one other time that I had an encounter with them. I went to a concert, I think it was in '77 at Olympia Stadium when they had the mothership and everything. It was Parliament Funkadelic. And I think maybe Barcades was opening up for them and everything. And Bootsy was the middle supporting that. So I went to the concert, and then everybody in the place was standing up on the chairs in the concert venue, and they was singing this chant. And I was trying to figure out what they were saying because I didn't know. And come to find out, I would listen, I started listening, and then finally I got it. They were singing the chant to the Pinocchio Theory. RUBBER FANS, rubber fans, and Funketeers. I said, oh, this is dope. It was so, you know, Bootsy was so powerful with his songs and the sound and his persona, you know. And so, I mean, it was, like I said, it was destined for me to be with Parliament Funkadelic. I mean, there's nobody on this planet that made the type of music, the sound that they created. I mean, from before, even before Bootsy got there, you know, Funkadelic had formed, you know what I mean? Parliament had formed and then morphed into Funkadelic. But, you know, when Bootsy came, I think it was around the America Eats Us Young album and stuff like that. You know, but Eddie Hazel and Tiki and Billy Nelson and all those guys, I mean, Bernie, come on, me and Bernie co-wrote songs together, you know, I mean, it's, you know, it's unbelievable, you know, the rhythm and the musicianship that these guys had, you know.
Yeah, and not only on record, but I mean, I've mentioned on the show before, but when I saw him in '78, Rubber Band, I mean, I've never seen a tighter band. They just monster rock tour, Bootzilla tour, man. Oof.
Yeah.
And Enchantment was on that bill too.
Yeah. Enchantment was doing some shows with them then too. You know what I'm saying? I did a few shows with Enchantment, but they would be closer to home. I did Detroit when they do their big show here. I did Cleveland with them. I might be on show with Dramatics. I did a show with them in Indiana, and I played with 4 acts in one night. I was like the most valuable player. I played with Enchantment that night, the Spinners, Dramatics, and Dennis Edwards' Temptations. So I was on, and the only person I didn't play with was Gerald and the Manhattans. I could have did their show, but I had to change clothes in between, you know, because I did those 4 acts all in one night. And, but Bootsy.
What was he like? You know, what did you think of Bootsy when you actually got to spend a little time with him? And
oh yeah, I really like Bootsy. When I came involved with Bootsy, I wound up doing, you know, me and Boot wound up being together a lot. You know, we drove across country together. We drove up to New York. We would leave the stage and he would have his Jeep pulled at the back of the stage, like at Capitol Center in Landover, Maryland, and his glasses would still be lit up, and him and I would come off the stage, get in the Jeep, full costume, and pull out through the parking lot, and I would turn his battery pack off for his glasses. We, you know, and him and I would change our clothes on I-95, getting ready to go to New York, you know, take our costumes off, put our jeans on and stuff. It was just me and him riding, you know, to New York. And we had money. When we got to New York, he had like 10 grand, and it's like I had 10 in mine. We go to the bank to put the money, wire it to the account. I used to stay at Bootsy's in Cincinnati because he didn't like to fly. And he would call me to come down, and Warner Brothers was giving him a big party in LA, and he wanted to take his mother, his sister, his nephew, and he had these 4 dogs, and the dogs only knew certain people. So I had to go down to Cincinnati and take care of the dogs, which was 2 Great Danes, Zilla and Star, and Champ, the German Shepherd, and Munchin, the sheepdog. And so I would stay at the house for 2 weeks, just me and the dogs, and I'd feed them and everything because they knew me. They were so big, I had to put on Army jackets and fatigues, because when they jump up there, push you down there, you know, if you didn't stand up, you would be able to get pushed over by the dogs, you know. And you know, me and Bootsy, when he was here in Detroit, we became really, really good, really close, because he got a townhouse here out by Metro Beach, where he didn't have to drive back and forth to Cincinnati. And I'm the only other person that had the keys. And actually, that's where we even started the Sweat Band album. Me, Gary Scheider, and Bootsy down in the basement of the townhouse, you know, and started putting songs together, you know, like Freak to Freak, and we do it all day long. But yeah, we've driven to California together, yeah, we really. I used to have a star bass over my house in Detroit, you know, in the case and stuff like that. So we go way back.
Was the Sweatband music intended to be that project, or was it going to be a rubber band record?
Yeah.
Or
well, it was intended. Well, at that point, the name Rubber Band was in a kind of litigation thing. It was found out that it was I think a country western band or something that had the name Rubber Band. So it was all kind of mixed up in there. And then so Bootsy came up with the concept of let's do, you know, Sweatband. So, but the Sweatband was actually a band. It was myself and Razor, Sharp, and Maceo. And we were one of the acts that was going to launch the Uncle Jam label, which at that point, George wasn't trying to give away none of his Ace people to any other companies. You know, he had groups on Atlantic. He had on Casablanca, he had Warner Brothers. And so the only other of the big 3, the Warner Electra Atlantic thing, then he didn't have anything on Columbia. So he went to Columbia for the distribution deal for the label, you know. And our album, Sweatband, Felipe Wynn's album, Jessica Cleave's album, and Roger's album was supposed to come out on the Uncle Jam label. Yeah.
so do you also get to spend much time with you know, Mudbone and
Oh yeah, yeah.
what about Phelps or Catfish?
Yeah, I did. Matter of fact, we all kept in touch, even when everything kind of disbanded. I talked to Mudbone last week, actually, and I had talked to Catfish before he passed and things like that. We would keep in touch, you know. So I did get to, you know, stay in touch. Mace, I haven't talked to in a while. But I think me and Mudbone stay in touch the most, because when I was on tour over in Europe, like 2 years ago, I go over there every 2 years with the Temptations and Four Tops, and we do a big, massive tour over there. He had talked to somebody from Amsterdam. No, it wasn't Amsterdam, it was England. And they were coming to the show, and he told them that I would be there, and they said, "Oh, we want to meet him." So they came to the show, and when I was coming out the backstage door, and they were trying to ask security, could they get in touch with me and everything, and then they said, "Oh, there's Butch right there," and then I got to meet these people that Mudbone had talked to, and they had. So it was really cool. So me and Bone, we stay in touch, man. Yeah.
Nice. So at that time, then, how did you become more involved with some of the projects that George was more involved with?
Well, with George's projects, I did The Brides, I did Parlette, and see, within our organization in the P-Funk family, there were two percussionists. It was Larry Fratangelo and myself. So some of the songs Larry would do, some I would do, some we're on together, and so Larry was more so Parliament Funkadelics percussionist, and I'm more so Bootsy's.
What was it? I was always wondering if it was more that Larry was more the West Coast guy and you were the East Coast guy, or?
Oh, no. Larry's from here too, Detroit. Okay. We're both here. Yeah, Larry's Detroit boy.
But as far as where they laid down the tracks, I was wondering if it.
They laid them down here. Actually, all the stuff that Larry's on was done here. All the tracks I've done, I did here. Only other tracks I might have did some out of town was down in Miami at Coconuts, when we were laying some tracks for the This Buddha's Made for Funkin' album. But we did mostly everything here at United, and some over at the Disc, and Sound Suite. It's 3 studios, but the main studio is United. And Larry's Detroit as well. Yeah.
How do your styles differ, would you say?
Larry's a little bit more abstract player than I am. I'm more regimented than Larry, I would say. But we both definitely know sound. We both know how to do placement, and we're like two solid players, very, very, we are the players here in town now. Larry does sessions, Larry plays with Kid Rock now, and he still does sessions, and I do the same thing. I play with Four Tops, and I still do a lot of sessions, so yeah, but we were studio musicians for real, yeah.
So what was it like working with George in the studio?
I like George because you never know what he's going to do. And that's spontaneous creativity is the reason why nobody can duplicate what Parliament Funkadelic has done. It's so spontaneous, and it's so unique, and it's so in character, with how George is like a magnet. People genuinely like him. When they meet George, they know he's special, totally special. And he hears things. I remember when we were in the Everglades, okay? It was me, Bootsy, Ron Dunbar, Larry Hatcher, which was another horn player. I brought Larry in when Rick Gardner had left the Horny Horns, so he could be part of the Horny Horns. And George, we were all on this fan boat doing 60 miles an hour in the Everglades. And the guide is the one that was steering the boat and everything. And he took us to this little like inland, like island to where he lives out there in the Everglades with his family. And so when we pulled up on the dock in the pier, you could see the alligators and stuff laying out in the sun on the little beach right there, little sand. And we said, "You live out here?" He said, "Yeah, my whole family live out here." So we went in the hut where his wife and his kids and all of them make souvenirs, and they make them out of the tree limbs and things out there in the nature. So George and myself, we bought these like carved knives, like Jim Bowie knives that they made out there. And so when we left, and then we went by the shore, and I looked over in the water, I said, "Damn, look at all that live life." George said, "Live life, yeah." You know, you can't say anything around George because he'll pick up on it, and it will get used. And so we got on the fan boat to go back to Miami, to the mainland. And we was on the boat sword fighting with these knives and stuff like that, you know. So, I mean, George, for him to come up with the mothership, the concept of um, all the characters, you know, Sir Nose, you know, Star Child, you know, I never know what George is going to do next, but I know musically he knows what he wants, and he'll come in. He's not always. He was not too much always in the studio when I was in the studio, but he would come in and be listening to the tracks and stuff, you know, like we would do. Oh man, we did so much stuff. Uh, he would say, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." You know, he would give the seal of approval on what was going on, and he definitely was a hands-on type of producer. But he had all these talented people, you know, just a conglomerate of. And I really liked the latter part of the '70s. I liked the earlier part of Parliament and Funkadelic, but I definitely started liking it towards 1975, 76 on up to, you know, like 78, 79, you know. I mean, just he was a magnet of pulling people in, and then he knew studio musicians too. And we were, like I said, I was a studio musician pulled into Parliament Funkadelic, you know. So he knows what he wants.
Did he ever write down stuff that you saw, or did he just like take stuff into his brain and keep it
Oh,
there
he just
somehow?
he just kick it out his brain. And what really was so unique about him, you know, George, you know, coming from a singing group, a 5-man stand-up singing group, he knew harmonies. He knew how to stack those vocals. He knew what the finished project was kind of sound like when he put all the vocals together. Um, I know Prince and people like that was like, how does he do this choir thing? How does he have all these vocals structured? You know, George hears that. I mean, it's his that's his signature trademark. I mean, I don't care what other acts like. It's been a lot of other acts that you know were influenced by the Parliament Funkadelic sound, like uh, George Duke, for instance, Dookie Stick, stuff like that. That's like a spinoff of Bootsy or whatever. You had ADC band, Long Stroke, you know, all of that was like influenced by Parliament Funkadelic. But none of those sounds their sound is not, you know, they're not Parliament Funkadelic. Parliament Funkadelic is so unique, and it will always be. And so, you know, and they started a movement. They started that funk movement right there. You know, I mean, Al Hudson in One Way. You know, I mean, people that were influenced by Parliament Funkadelic. I mean, even Ray Parker. He did what for those who like to groove, you know what I'm saying? Come on.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean,
The One Nation influence there.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know, so we all, you know, we get to listen to people and we know what influenced them, and they tried to get as close as they could get to that Parliament Funkadelic, but no other entity can touch that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially the Gap Band. I mean, it goes on
Oh
and
yeah,
on, but
Gap Band. I mean, they took our horn line. You know, come on, man. That was Bootsy Rubber Band horn line. You know, and they put it on their song. You know, come on. That was the Horny Horns that came up with that. You know.
and they ran the flashlight Moog into the ground.
Oh yeah, yeah. See, so that's what I'm saying. You know, I mean, I respect all those acts. I mean, they did. I mean, even the guy that wrote the two biggest songs with Gap Band, Raymond Calhoun. Raymond used to be Raymond's a drummer from Washington D.C. and we knew each other back then. And he couldn't get any work playing drums, so he went out as a percussionist with the Manhattans. And I was on tour with the Dramatics, and the Manhattans, they rented him some gear, and then all my gear would be set up because at that time with the Dramatics, I was bringing out my own gear, not using any rental because I want to sound like I do on the records. Uh, and I told Raymond, I said, don't play that stuff, man. You can play my setup. And so Raymond was with the Manhattans, and when they got to the West Coast, he wound up staying there, and he wound up writing Outstanding and Yearning for Your Love in the hotel room. And those are two biggest Gap Band songs. So me and Raymond are like this to this day. You know, I mean, this, you know, we're around everything. I took the Brides out on tour with me with Was Not Was as well. You know, when everything kind of like not disbanded, but everything was at a standstill. When I left from Sweatband, I went out on tour with Was Not Was. And so I had Lynn and Dawn come and be the girls. And so we were all Was Not Was. We did all the in stores, the radio interviews. I even did the rap on Woodworth Squeaks, Out Come the Freaks, you know. So I did percussion on their albums, and we did their first tour. We did the Was Not Was tour. Yeah.
Yeah, brought them some real funk, kind of like the Talking Heads.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I met them too. I knew Tina Wyman and all them, and I met them through Bernie, you know, because Bernie, I had Bernie, he was out with the Talking Heads and he came to Detroit. And then I was working on a project for this company, TAM Productions at Sound Suite, and it's a song called Stereo Radio that I produced. And I did the drums on there and percussion and the talk box. I had Bernie playing keys on there and Randy Jacobs from Was Not Was playing guitar. So yeah, that song, you know, it was like a little local hit record called Stereo Radio, and Bernie's got writer credits on there with me and Randy. Yeah, yeah.
What can you tell viewers about Bernie?
Well, Bernie was my favorite. I'd have to just say Bernie was my favorite. His approach, which he came from a classical background, and he reminded me of how I am too when it comes to sound. He would do things with the mini moog that nobody can do to this day. And then he had the ARP string ensemble. He had the ARP Odyssey. He had all the ARP keyboards and the Horner D6 clavinet. And Bernie, you know, like he's the one playing organ on We Do It All Day Long, you know. So his approach with playing was real rhythmically, rhythm and sound. And no one can play like Bernie Worrell. He was like one of a kind on the planet. I remember when Junie came to work with us. Junie's playing on, One Nation and Knee Deep. That's when you heard the songs have a little more chords in it and stuff like that on the keyboards. That's when Junie came, and Bernie's on them as well. The two of them are on there. It's so much we've done. Like people don't even know that's Bootsy playing drums on One Nation and Knee Deep and stuff like that. Any drums that sound like a marching band type of regiment, Bootsy did those drums. So Bootsy is so talented on guitar and drums and bass, absolutely. Yeah, but Bernie, I remember we ate dinner at the house, me, Bernie, Junie, Bootsy, in New Jersey, in Plainfield. We always would get together, when we could, just try to take a day or something like that for ourselves, Yeah.
So I have a list here. I just want people to know the records that you're credited on, and if a P-Funk record is not mentioned, feel free to add that.
Oh, okay.
But Glory Hell is Stupid, Parliament, Invasion of the Booty Snatchers, Parlette.
Yep.
Never Buy Texas from a Cowboy, The Brides.
Yes.
Blow by Blow Backwards, Horny Horns.
Yeah.
Play Me or Trade Me, Parlette.
Yes.
The Sweatband, as you mentioned.
Right.
Ultra Wave, Bootsy.
Yeah.
I think
we got
that might be it for P-Funk. You mentioned maybe you're also on this
Funkin'. Yeah. Food was made for Funkin'. I did Play Me or Trade Me, Parlette. Yeah, and Invasion of the Booty Snatchers. Yeah, I did both of those albums too. Yeah, and Felipe Wynn's album as well. We did a few things for the Zap album, the first one. Bootsy, I remember when we brought Zap and them up from Ohio, and they worked 2 years on that album before that album came out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame how that ended up working out, but
yeah,
at least on the P-Funk side for sure.
Yeah, that Roger was signed to Uncle Jam. His album, Many Facets of Roger, was supposed to have been out on the Uncle Jam label. I mean, he had his deal. I had, my deal. Which me, Mason Razor had our deal. Jessica had her deal, and Felipe had his deal. And the Roger album was supposed to come out on Uncle Jam. And see, a lot of things, I kind of know how that happened. See, Roger was not signed to Warner Brothers, and the other brothers were, the three, and they would come out to the shows and they saw Roger doing everything, so they got in his ear, and he just went on and did what he wanted to do. I know he's mentioned to me one time, he said, man, George taking too long to put out my album. I said, well, just go on and talk to him or whatever, but I think he had already had in his mind what he was going to do. And Warner Brothers had in their mind what they wanted to do as well. I remember when I first heard the music for Roger's album, we were standing in front of the Regal Theater in Chicago. We were getting ready to do a show. And he was playing the cassette. We would get these white cassettes from United, and he was playing the cassette on a boombox, and we sitting up there listening. I'm hearing, So Rough, So Tough, and things of that nature. And then all of a sudden, this young kid, about 14, came up and snatched the radio out of Roger's hand and ran across the street into this, it was like houses over there, vacant field and all of that. So we started chasing after the 14-year-old to get the boombox back. So I'm like, I'm like 6'2". I'm tall. I'm right behind him, and he could tell I was getting closer, and he threw the radio down. And so we got the radio back, and we didn't care about the radio. It was just that the album hadn't got released yet, you know. So it's so many stories, man. We done been there with a lot.
Did you go out on tour with P-Funk at all?
No, I would be out on tour with P-Funk. I'd work with Bootsy's rubber band, but I never would play with P-Funk. Frat would be playing with P-Funk, and I would watch their show, you know, and stuff like that. And but I never did any live concerts with P-Funk until latter. I might do a little guest appearance if George and them would come in town here at the Fox, and I would go down to the show and I would play on one song or whatever. They did a festival we have here in Detroit called Arts Beats and Eats, and I was doing something down at the downtown at the Hart Plaza. I did a little show earlier, and I had a set of drums with me, and my oldest son, DJ Los, he said, "Dad, I want to go see Uncle George." So I said, well, okay, cool, we'll go. And we went to Arts Beats and Eats, and I wound up playing, you know, on stage with him there. But I never have really played on any of those concert shows with P-Funk. Yeah.
Did you get to spend much time with Gary Scheider?
Oh yeah, me and Gary, man. We, like I said, we even started the Sweatband album, Bootsy, myself, and Gary out at the Townhouse. And Gary, in latter years, when I would come to see P-Funk on the West Coast, I was out there with Death Row Records at that point. And me and Gary would get together backstage and stuff like that. I remember they did the House of Blues on Sunset, and I was with Dre. I came to the show. It was me, Dre, DJ Quick, and then they pulled me up on stage to play the congas they had up there, you know. And so I would always try and go see a P-Funk show if I was in town, wherever they, you know, if they were performing. You know, but me and Gary, we got along real good, you know. Gary was one of my favorites. He was so talented vocally and like an MD as well. And guitar, nobody plays rhythm guitar like Gary Scheider, you know. So he's one of my favorites. Yeah, he's gone. There's so many of us gone, you know.
Yeah, the past 10 years have been rough.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, every time I turn around, Ron Ford, I got pictures with Ron, you know, and then Ron Dunbar, I got pictures with Ron, you know, I knew Ron Dunbar.
Boogie, yeah.
Yeah, I knew Ron Dunbar before he came to work over with Parliament Funkadelic and Invictus Records, you know, because I did for Holland Dozier Holland, Mavis Staples album that they had over there. And I met Ron then. And then when he came over to Parliament, you know, I worked on his songs that he wrote for Parliament, and then Agony of Defeat for Parliament, you know, so we all connected. We're really connected. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't say Trombipulation. Are you on that one too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I know I did what Let's Play Houses on that album. Yeah, I'm on that album as well. Yeah, I did about 2 or 3 songs on there, I think. Yeah.
What might be the 1 or 2 P-Funk songs that you're most proud of, or that you really like, you know, what you were able to do on them?
Well, I like Theme from the Black Hole. I did Theme from the Black Hole. I like, let me see, what else? I like Let's Play House. Let me see, what else? I'm on the Glory House Stupid album. Let me think of the songs that's on there.
Well, Black Hole's on there.
Oh, okay. Black Holes on there.
Big Bang Theory's on there.
Yeah, yeah. Let me see. Well, I really like the Brides. I did Party Up in Here. See, not only did I do uh, the acoustical percussion stuff, but I did electronic percussion as well, like the syndromes and things of that nature, to bring them into another age and stuff at the end and stuff like that. So I got to do hand claps. You know, I would like these boards, man. I did so much stuff.
You got to work with some of the newer guys on that, like Skeet and
Oh yeah,
guys, right?
yeah, Skeet and let me see. Well, Dennis and them, all of them they came to be the Brides band, you know. And I was there when Jerome Braley left and Tyrone Lampkin, and Dennis wound up becoming the drummer for P-Funk, you know what I'm saying? But he came in, he was supposed to be there with the Brides. And me and Dennis ran into each other over in Europe, in Montreux. One year he was with a group, I think it's a group called Side Effects or something. And I was with Earl Klugh. You know, we was on the Montreux Jazz Festival and stuff. So we got a chance to see each other then, you know. Yeah.
Earl Klugh is a lot different from P-Funk.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Earl, I did the Hollywood Bowl with Earl. I did, let me see, what else did I do with Earl? Oh, Montreux Jazz Festival in Montreux, Switzerland. I did, he did a simulcast concert here from University of Michigan for Volkswagen, and they simulcasted throughout the whole country. So I did those things with Earl. Yeah. Usually I wind up doing big concerts. Yeah.
So what was Michael Henderson like back in that era when you were doing those things for him?
Yeah, Michael is Michael can play bass. As everybody know, Michael played with Miles Davis, and you know, if you play with Miles, you could play. And then Michael could sing, and he could, you know, he could produce. So he did My Starship, you know, a lot of songs, you know, with what's the guy that
Norman Connors.
Norman Connors, yeah, he did those with Norman Connors, and then he wound up getting his own record deals, you know, and so he did Wide Receiver and all that. Michael was funky, and he did the dramatics. He wrote Be My Girl, you know, so he's on dramatic albums with me. And Michael is a great bass player. He can play. Yeah, he was good. And we all just create music together all the time. You know, we run into each other. He might see me and like, but can you do my album? Can you do this? You know, so it's a camaraderie with all of us with that.
Did he ever tell you, hey, I want to get kind of some of that P-Funk type flavor on this?
Well, you know, he told me, he said, yeah, Butch, I want you to do those big booty claps, because you know I do those hand claps and all of that stuff. And I did that on songs for him, you know, and so, and everybody, I think everybody wanted the flavor of what we were doing with Parliament Funkadelic, you know, because I remember when Parliament Funkadelic, when we was on tour in Billboard magazine, they would have the #1 slot, the #2 slot, and 3, 4, 5 of the box off sellouts. And we'd be competing with ourselves to get to #1. No one could get up there. You know, whatever act was on tour, I wouldn't care if it was a white act, a big act, you know. If Parliament and Funkadelic was on tour, we had those slots. So, you know, and everybody wanted that flavor, man. George was, you know, I've never seen anything like it. I don't think we'll see anything like it again. And you know, and Bootsy is like, that's a phenomenon right there. You know, he was with James Brown. Come on, man. You know, his first, when he was like 17, 18, he with James Brown, and him and Catfish, you know what I'm saying? You know, I when we formed Sweat Band, Bootsy put in the live band where he brought Tiger to play drums, and Mike Evans and Kevin Oliver, and I brought David Spradley in. That's how David became part of Parliament Funkadelic. I brought David in to play keyboards with Razor, and I brought Larry Hatcher. He played trumpet and sang. So when we formed all of that together, and Mace, I mean, I can't say nothing no more about these guys. They're the greatest, man. You know.
Yeah, they're all superstars. I
Yeah,
mean, if
we
not
we're,
in
yeah.
fame, but in what they
Oh yeah,
did and
what
what they
we
do
do.
now.
Yeah.
There's much more to this great Truth and Rhythm interview. Just continue on to the next part of the episode. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel. If you've already done so, please share it with friends. And become a member by joining Truth and Rhythm on Patreon or consider donating at funkinstuff.net. Thank you very much.